BRUCAST is back, baby.
This BRUCAST episode is brought to you by the BRUCAST Store. Explore a store filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with BRUCAST. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Visit now brew-cast.com/store. Link below.
BRUCAST is back, baby. Feel the rhythm shake. Hear the guitar wailing. Let the music break.
Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to another BRUCAST episode. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. BRUCAST also on Instagram, X, and TikTok, where I upload shorts with the highlights of the show. So follow now, BRUCAST on Instagram, X, and TikTok. Links on the description below. You know what? It's giveaway time! Hey there, BRUCAST fans, are you ready to snag some exclusive BRUCAST gear? Well, listen up. We're giving away a limited edition BRUCAST cap, and it's super easy to enter. All you have to do is subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's it. You'll be then running to win this awesome cap. But don't wait too long. Subscribe now, because this giveaway won't last forever. We'll be announcing the luck winner at the end of October 2024, so stay tuned. Good luck to everyone, and thank you for being such an amazing part of the BRUCAST community. And once again, subscribe. Our guest today is David Buck. David Buck is a business leader and time management expert specializing in productivity and post-career planning. He founded Kairos Management Solutions and the Infinity Lifestyle Design Program. All right, David, how are you doing, my friend?
Hey, I'm doing well. Honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an honor. It's an honor. Those are very interesting topics, as I mentioned before. I don't think about my retirement that much, and I'm horrible with time management, so I'm eager to talk to you.
We can cover wherever you need to go, either in career or post-career.
All right. So, how this fascination started? How did you become interested on time management? Let's start with time management.
Sure. So I've had a long corporate career as a business development person. That is a fancy word for sales, and very, very heavy on the sarcasm here. But I learned early on that these amazingly, stunningly good looks and huge charisma wasn't going to get me anywhere as a salesperson.
All right.
And I found that when I was better prepared than my competition, I got the sale. And when I made it as easy as possible for them to do business with me, I usually kept them as a client. And that revolved its way around my use of time. So when I used my time well, I was more productive. But when I also used my time well, that helped my clients. And that really just stuck with me throughout my career, this fascination with trying to be as productive as possible and useful as possible.
All right. Just for context, what are you selling?
So I sold in my corporate career, started out selling greeting cards for a company called Hallmark Cards. And then I worked in anything from industrial fabrics to baby gift product to selling t-shirts, you name it. I did quite a variety of things. Actually, with a lot of, I only had 4 companies I worked for, but they sold a lot of different other products. And so had a lot of fun with the diverse set of items that I sold.
All right, so a variety of items. When you say time management, the first thing that comes to my mind is this case of this woman who I heard on YouTube that she was so worried about her professional life that she bought a new microwave, which would heat her morning coffee 1 second faster. It was like, okay. so that's the first thing that comes to my mind. So how far off am I from what do you do?
So I look at that situation and I try to challenge everybody. we all say we're busy.
Okay.
We do a ton of stuff. And I say you need to differentiate between are you being busy versus are you being productive? And when you look at it through that lens, you then begin to say, well, then how do I be productive? Busyness has a tendency to be reactive. I'm reacting to certain circumstances. I'm going to invest a lot of time to try to save a second instead of being more proactive and saying, what do I need to do to get done with the most important things and being productive? So look at it and differentiate between are you busy or are you productive?
All right. Could you give us some examples to illustrate like the difference?
Sure. So typically when someone tries to manage their time, they're very reactive. So for example, someone comes to them and they interrupts them and says, I need your time. I need you to help me solve this issue. They may end up solving that issue well for the other person. They may end up using their time well, so to speak. But what they've neglected is all the other things that have to happen in their life. So what I like people to do is instead of trying to react all the time, invest time up front in planning your day. Do the 2 to 3 have-tos during your day. What is absolutely I must get done today? And that becomes the basis by which you challenge any other interruptions that come your way. So that as you work through the day, you're working on the most important things and you're continuing to prioritize those as your important elements proactively versus reactively saying, okay, I'll handle this issue that pops up.
All right. So planning your day, that's a big skill. It's a big thing that you would recommend. Just when you say planning your day, would you include even like personal life stuff or just planning your day at work? How far would you plan your day?
Both. And that's where people tend to silo or compartmentalize their use of time. They know that they have some structure at work that they have to do, and then they're kind of like they want to step away and say, I'll figure out the rest after work time. And I encourage everybody, time is time. A second during work versus a second during your personal time, it's the same amount of time. It's what you plan to do in that time frame that defines the difference. So the more you plan both professional and personal life, the more you're able to negotiate time when someone else wants to come use your time to benefit them.
All right. So let's say I plan my whole day, my personal life, my work day, and someone comes over and say, Bruno, like I need you to do that. Like, how would you respond to it? Like, no, I have like a fixed schedule. I need to be productive, so I won't help you right now. Like, how would you approach the situation?
So I use this. You could say it's kind of it might even be a stupid question, but formulate your own. So when that happens to me, I say, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being it's no issue at all, 10, it's a zombie apocalypse. Tell me how important this issue is. And usually at that point, it's a little lighthearted, so make up your own. But you do something to make them stop for a moment and say, okay, how important is this? And when I've done that, I've had nobody really rate themselves above a 5 in that situation. So, okay, you got an important situation here, but then from that point, you then immediately say, okay, can we put this at a time frame when I'm more available? And you begin to negotiate that open time that benefits both of you. And so find whatever trigger saying you want to do, and then use that as an opportunity where you necessarily don't have to say no, but you start to negotiate.
Gosh, I love that. Especially because I think I've been on the other end of the situation in the past. I've interrupted people asking for stuff before asking myself the priority of those things. And I think I would rather wait. Like, I never ask myself how important is this, like 1 or 10. And most of the times like 2 or 3, and I can just ask the person later, but I make it I make it sound like a priority because I wanted it to happen right now. So,
Well, we're so trained by that in the digital life that we live in
yeah,
today.
yeah,
We're trained for instant gratification. So it's natural for that to translate into other elements of our life as we work. I got a problem. I want to get it solved right away.
yeah,
And so we go about doing that.
yeah. Not a very nice skill. So, from what I understand, it's all about planning and setting priorities. You plan your day. You set your the things that you need to do that day, and how important they are, and you just tackle them. Sounds simple on paper.
It does, and that's where some people they struggle with it. And so I say plan it incrementally. Don't say, okay, I'm going to plan tomorrow just perfectly and it's going to go off just as I expect it, because it's not. And then you get frustrated because I planned all this stuff out. And at the end of the day, you're like, I didn't get anything done that I wanted to get done. So if that's you, do it incrementally. Just say, I'm going to try to plan 1 hour that I'm going to own tomorrow. And once you learn to own that hour, then plan 2 hours. But within that planning, you also have to evaluate. So my cadence is at the beginning of every day, I look at what my day is going to be like and say, do I have to make any adjustments? Then I dive into the day and I'll have things pop up that I have to reactively handle. It's the nature of what happens. But then at the end of the day, I plan back and say, did I get done with what I needed to get done? And then I evaluate and say, what could I have done better? This was great. I need to copy this. But then I again look at the next day and challenge myself to say, is it planned out right? And it's the morning and the evening. It just takes 10 minutes. It's not like you're sitting there a bunch of times, but I do it in the morning and the evening because, again, living in a digital world, I have international customers and I've got people who on the same time zone as me who like to work at 1 o'clock in the morning. So sometimes in the morning I could wake up and things have changed even from when I went to bed.
Got it. And during those 10 minutes, how exactly are you planning? You're looking at your calendar and deciding time slots for stuff?
So typically I should have already, when I'm in the morning, I should pretty much have, it's really affirming what I've already set up. But yes, a calendar. There are wonderful, amazing productivity tools out there, but I really challenge people. You have two of them in front of you that comes from the same source. Anyone who's on an email exchange server, it automatically comes with a calendar built in as well as a task function. So you have, in my opinion, right then and there, two powerful tools at your fingertips that you can use to improve how you use your time. And that comes from simply planning out your calendar, filling every hour with what you'd like to see happen, and then make sure that those hours contain work on the tasks that you prioritized yourself for the day. And then knowing it's not going to be perfect, you're going to have to adapt it, and you go from there.
Any mention-worthy softwares that you use besides the regular calendar?
Yes, if you want to understand how you use your time, there are two apps that I've used that have two really good free versions. One is called Toggle and the other is called Clockify. Both of them are time tracking devices. Now, what you have to do is you have to be disciplined to track your time, which people sometimes are like, I'm struggling trying to keep track of my time. Now you want me to spend time actually recording it. But when you record it and you do it for at least 30 days and then go back and look at where you spent your time, being honest, saying, oops, I just spent 30 minutes on social media. I got to go record that I spent 30 minutes on social media. When you do that and you look back, you'll be shocked at how much time you're really wasting.
Oof. Yeah, that Whew, that's a soft, how to say in English, that's a subject that touches a lot of people, right? How much time you spend on social media. I mean, I think most people know they spend more than more than they should, right? Apple has this function on their phones that tells you screen time tells you after you passed your limit. But it's kind of useless in my opinion, because they have a button below, just continue using. So you just automatically press it. At least that's what happens with me. I know that I reach my daily 15 minutes, but it's so easy to bypass it. Just boop. And then I continue using it and go with my day. Would you have any recommendations to prevent that?
Well, first of all, give yourself grace. Everybody should give themselves grace.
okay.
We all are that smartphone, whether you use Apple, Android, whoever, is designed to distract you. It wants you to consume time on it. Now, it's an amazingly productive tool. I have been able to do incredible things because of it. But at the same time, I find myself saying, wait a minute, 20 minutes later, and I've looked at 15 different reels on Facebook that I shouldn't have. So I would just say, kind of flip the script a little bit and start to say, I am going to intentionally dedicate time to consume social media. Instead of reactively saying I was on it, say, okay, I'm going to block off a half an hour here on my calendar twice a day. One at 10:30 in the morning, at one at 3 in the afternoon, where I'm going to go on. I'm going to be on social media. For the purposes of you're training your brain to say, I have something to look forward to. Now, you got to be disciplined to say, I'm going to stop in that 30 minutes. But instead of you trying to get the dopamine hit and then feeling guilty because you spent too much time, you create an anticipation of and me being able to, which may help you be more focused doing the things you need to.
All right, so you basically plan your distractions as well.
If you need to, yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I had a guest the other day on the podcast. His name's Gary. He's a neurosurgeon, and I think he was reaching workaholism. Right, he was really into work all the time, and he started becoming not very fun to be around, right? Because when you're overworked, like you're stressed all the time. And he realized that just by playing the guitar once in a while, it would just alleviate all the workaholic bad symptoms. Like you just feel so much better, you feel so much lighter, you feel pleasant again. So one thing he started doing, he started forcing himself from every week, from certain time, like certain periods of times, every week, just to play the guitar. So he was actually adhering to the strategy that we're talking about. I think he was planning his distractions. That's very interesting.
I love the fact that he chose an outlet outside of his work, and I can weave into this idea of taking formal breaks during the day. And I define a formal break as stepping away from your work environment and putting yourself in another environment, ideally without a screen in your hand or around you. And so for me, twice a day, I leave my office and I go take my dog for a walk. And that's a way for me to step away with what I'm doing, because what you find is, and your guest who's a neurosurgeon can get into a lot more detail behind that, but the science of that is really the fact that you're giving your brain also a break, so it's actually more focused and ready to go back into an activity because you've given it almost a mini vacation in essence to then come back and do your work.
That's wonderful. And did you hear, everyone? He said away from screens, preferentially.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Because we were talking about using social media as a distraction, but it's not that effective for your brain because your brain doesn't feel like you're relaxing when you're social media. I heard like your brain is being stimulated when you're in TikTok. So ideally, away from screens, everyone. All right. So that's about productivity. So plan your day, plan your distractions, define your priorities. What else would you recommend, David?
People typically find themselves also procrastinating. And I define procrastination as intentionally delaying on something important that you know by delaying will hurt you. And a lot of times, whether you're in your job, unfortunately, leaders have this propensity to give an undefined goal. So I'll use a personal one. Let's say I want to paint my room. Right now, my office is off-white. I want to put a little color in here. Well, if I just declare I'm going to paint my room without any details around that, chances are 3 months from now, you could come and probably see my room's still off-white because I haven't put any pressure on myself or details around it. So this is where typically I tell people, take the item you think you're procrastinating on and start to break it into more manageable tasks so you can show your incremental goal or your steps to achieve that goal. And some of the things, for example, if I'm painting my room is, well, what color am I going to paint it? What kind of paint am I going to use? What supplies do I need? What kind of preparation do I do? And by doing those steps, when I choose my color, I feel good because I've made progress. And then when I choose the type of paint, again, I've made progress. So as you move along, before you know it, you may have taken 10 steps, but it's done. Instead of just sitting there back at step one saying, well, I got to paint the room. What am I going to do now? So break it down into manageable steps.
So you take a big go and break it down in several manageable steps. That's very interesting. I saw a YouTube channel once, a YouTube video once, long time ago. The guy, he suggested a similar approach, but for like a really long-term life goals. So I think he wanted a Tesla. He wanted a Tesla car, but he was broke. So so that's a huge goal, right? So I think he broke it down. Then find a job, and then the task below that was like find the types of job that I would like to do, and the task below that like types of job that I'd like to do that are like in proximity where I live. And then he broke it down even more, types of job that I do that are currently have like positions available, and he broke it down so much, and he, like at the end of the video he had like a very comprehensive plan, I think 5 years plan of how much he would be earning with the certain type of jobs that he applied, how much he would have to save every month, etc., in order to get that Tesla car. But he applied the principle that you just mentioned. Like he broke down this gigantic task in a billion of small ones.
And that is the challenge that people have is that was a multi-year goal that he had established. And that's where a lot of people get a little scared because it's kind of like I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow, let alone 5 years from now. But by doing it in those little steps. So just imagine the net benefit outside of him getting the Tesla. What did he do? He got a job. He got a job that he liked. So even if he never gets the Tesla, which he did, he also put himself in a position in other avenues of his life where he was doing things that he liked. And that's where I try to push people. So much of what we do and how we use our time is interrelated. So if we improve, let's say we stop procrastinating because we've done all this planning, we're also less apt to be distracted. Why? Because we're devoting time on more focused activities. So when you improve in one area, the great thing is you start to improve in other areas of your life.
Oh, that's so wonderful. I'm so grateful that we're talking about that. Because, I mean, if you don't have a goal, it's easy to get distracted. If you don't have a goal, like, why not just spend the whole weekend playing video games? I mean, it's fun, of course, but you're just slowly dying. I don't want to sound depressive, but it's true. I mean, you're throwing your life away. Like a lot of those goals, they're there for you to go after them, you know. And so I'm very, very thankful that we're talking about ways for people to actually go after them. That's wonderful.
Incremental, like you said, small steps, and not be afraid of the timeline that it's going to take you to get it done.
Yes, yes. Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson?
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I don't quote me on that, but he said something like most people don't plan their life 5 years ahead, and ideally everyone should plan their life 5 years ahead. That's a great thing to do, and I think it aligns a little bit with what we're talking right now. If you know where you're going, like the chances of getting there just increases drastically, right? So yeah, I love that guy.
Well, and to borrow from him also, one of the things that for example, actually my son followed what he did. I could never get my son to make his bed, but Jordan Peterson got my son to make his bed. And that became a habit. And so if you look at even the pursuit of your goal, that's 5 years ahead of time, it will establish some good habits in other areas of your life. Again, this interconnectivity and stuff. So yeah, I am a fan of his because he wants you to think ahead, but also not miss the details in your life. That small changes can have a big impact on what you decide to do.
You're talking about cleaning your room, right?
George, yeah, yep.
Could you expand a little bit more on that, because I feel like it's greatly misinterpreted, and for many years I didn't understand very much either, like the whole clean your home room thing.
So I have, as part of, as a matter of fact, I make the bed. My wife doesn't.
Okay.
It's a discipline of mine. What that does is when I make the bed, it becomes a trigger to me that the day has officially begun. And my mindset changes as a result. And so therefore I'm kind of like, I'm moving from morning, getting up, getting ready, to now productivity has to begin. And that's a trigger for me. But the other aspect of like a clean room, it just is a sense of order. So our lives are chaos, really, if you look at it. We talked about the distractions of electronics, the demands of our time, just how much we are visually stimulated with overload. To me, an organized space, and I like my office to be organized, it is almost a Zen type quality where I get to walk into a space that is controlled. And that from that, I work from that controlled space. It just works beneficial for me. So something like even as simple as making the bed can be a mindset trigger that will help you go about the rest of your day with the right attitude.
I see. Okay, so by making your bed, you feel like you're being productive, and you have a more organized environment where you can also be productive. And I'm sure there's like also subconscious effect of being in a place that's more pleasant, visually pleasant. Like I'm sure it also must make you, I don't know what, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it must be beneficial, right? But one thing that I don't understand, David, I know a lot of artists, they work in the opposite environment. They have such a messy room, and that's where they thrive. That's where they become creative. What do you understand? I don't understand the logic behind that. Do you have a guess?
So I will use my wife as an example, and it's okay. She's heard this story many times, and I actually put it in my book. But if you look at my office and my wife's office, we both have home offices. They're next to each other. So if you look at my office, it's neat, it's clean, it's organized. I like it. If you look at her office, she's got stacks of paper. To me, it's just in order. I get anxious just being in her office. However, Bruno, if you were in our kitchen and you yelled, okay, Dave, go find this in your office, and Sue, go find this in your office, she's going to come out of her office with it and hand it to you quicker than I am. So one of the things I also work with clients is I have a preferred way that I would like you to live, but I also know that there are highly productive people that are in an environment that is messier than I like, but they operate really, really well. Where I challenge people is that if the mess bothers you, then you got to do something about it because it's inhibiting you from being productive. If you're able to work through that as an artist and things are stacked up everywhere, or I've been in people's offices and it doesn't bother you, then I'm kind of like, that's not your highest priority then on how you need to manage your time. Let's go deeper and understand where the other avenues are at before we address organization.
That's wonderful, David, because at least you let people know that that's a choice. That's something that they need to be more conscious about if they are more productive, and what type of environment they're more productive. Because that's not something that I ever thought about before. I started thinking about that when this show on Netflix came out, Marimekko, like minimalist show. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the show, but it was this sweet Japanese lady. She would help people declutter, and she would go to people's houses and help and tell them to hold objects in their hands, and you would have like this inner conversation with the object. Do you while you hold the object, you ask the object, do you bring joy into my life? And more often than not, you have an immediate answer. And then this would help people declutter stuff or not. And after I watched the show, I was like, that sounds fun. I'm gonna give it a try, right? And it turns out I just started throwing so much stuff away that I didn't need it, and I just felt better. And for the first time in my life, David, I started asking myself about the environment that I lived in and how this affected my productivity. But that was not something that I was conscious about before, and that I'm very happy. That's one of the points that you brought up is like you make people conscious about that. So that's very good.
And then they can make their own choices as to how it is. I would say that as you begin to understand, again, my wife's highly productive. You know, she's at all her appointments on time and that sort of thing. But she does take time sometimes to organize her office. She's like, okay, this is enough. I've got to get that done. But that doesn't need to be a high priority for her. And she carves out specific time to do it.
I see. Let me look for the Netflix show. I don't wanna.
Yeah, I want to say that also that she wrote a book too, if I'm not mistaken, and I can't remember that as well.
So her name is Marie Kondo. Marie Kondo. Let's see if she has a book. The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. All right. Have you read it, David?
I have not. I had a friend of mine who read it and kind of did like you did, followed the principles, and he said it was nice because life is more simple then. I don't have to think about all that stuff necessarily or right away. So yeah.
Wonderful. So we touch a lot of very interesting subjects, and now, if you're okay, I would like to cover a little bit about the retirement part. So we plan our lives, we plan our days. Do we also plan our retirements?
So many people plan financially,
Okay.
which they should, but then they don't plan how they're going to use those finances to the best of their abilities in a retirement life. And so I would say whether you are in career now, so whether you're working now or you're thinking about retirement, regardless of your age, think about this. If you're working 48 hours a week, and as business owners, people work more, some people work less, but let's just land on 48. And then you're sleeping 7 hours a night. You're fortunate to sleep that much. You are spending 40% of your awake time in your career. And that career naturally brings a high level of structure. Let's say you say, I want to go now. I'm going to ride off into the sunset. I'm going to retire. I don't want to work. Well, you've got to figure out how to fill 40% of the time that your eyes are open. And many people don't do that, and as a result, they struggle when they head into that post-career life.
Really? They basically don't know what to do? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. Because they're so focused on the financial aspect, and obviously their career brings them so much, that when they step into it, they haven't planned, how am I going to fill that time? And so for many, retirement becomes a time of depression. About 20% of retirees suffer from some form of depression. In the United States, 1 million struggle with alcoholism. And then also in the United States, 16 out of 1,000 are substance abuse users, all tied directly to the fact that they decided to retire.
Whew. Okay, and those are cases of people who had money when they retired. Okay, so even though they're financially stable, they're financially happy when they retired, they felt so depressed that they turned to substance abuse or end up actually just having depression. Wow.
Right.
I didn't know that. So it's basically a lack of meaning that they're facing.
There you go. Yes. Yes. That is the key, is that the job provided them in career. So much of what we do with our jobs brings us personal value, brings us purpose. You look at it most times when you're in career and you're introduced to somebody, pretty much within the first couple minutes, somebody says, what do you do for a living? Well, it's tied back to your job. When you head into retirement, you can't answer that question because you don't do anything for a living, because you saved so you don't have to work. And so for there, even, again, regardless of your age, really push people to define the purpose of their life. What is your purpose? Your purpose can involve a lot of your career. That's great. But ultimately, when you get up in the morning, what drives you forward besides your job? And if your job went away, what would bring meaning to you? And by doing that and working through that, you then begin to understand, how am I going to use my time well besides just work?
Well, so you help people think about a deeper meaning in life besides work. I would say, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if those people had hobbies, that wouldn't be such a drastic thing when they retire, right? It's like they wouldn't feel that empty when they... what do you say about that?
Yes, hobbies help again, structuring your time. I worked with a couple. The one gentleman was 2 years away from retirement. And I said, so what are you going to do? And he said, I'm already doing it now. He says, I'm building. He said, I built a workshop in my garage. I'm building furniture. And he just loves to build furniture. And one of the things his plan in retirement was, he was going to just build furniture and either sell it directly to retail companies, or he says, I'll take it with me on the road to go to shows or whatever. But he said, I get to do that on my time. He gets to plan and he gets to decide, am I going to wake up today and spend 2, 3, 4, or 8 hours building furniture? Or do I want to go do X, Y, and Z? That's ultimately what I want people to do. Is you could still work if you want in retirement, but define the flexibility you want to have in your life. So if you have this neat personal thing you want to pursue, you have enough availability in your life to change what you're doing, to go pursue that passion, to then come back to something else. And hobbies are a great way to define that flexibility.
Wonderful. Have you faced any of that, David? Did you enter retirement and you felt lost as well, or you had a plan?
So no, that's a great question. Yeah. What happened to me was I've been blessed that I had parents who, when I got my first job, made me save for the future. They didn't mention the word retirement, but they're just kind of like, you need to save, set aside money and save it for the future. And I'm like, I just want gas money to go out with my friends on a Friday night. That's why I'm working. But it's stuck. And so probably I want to say about 3 years ago, my wife and I were meeting with our financial advisors to go over how the plan was. And my wife, I didn't know she was going to ask this question. She said, well, what if Dave retired today? And our financial advisors went, well, we'd like you to still work for a while, but if you absolutely needed to, you could. Life would be really simple. And that hit me over the head like a sledgehammer because I went, okay, I technically have enough resources to retire, but what would I do? So came back to that time. So because my business is tied to helping people manage their time at the time only in career. So I was only working with individuals, companies, and businesses. I took the principles that I was using there and went on my own personal journey and said, how can I use the principles I have here over to another part of my life? Started asking a bunch of other people, what do you think? And realized everybody's in my same age group is going, yeah, I haven't thought about that either. And so it was really that aha moment for me that was like, I could, but what would I do? And I don't ever want to fully stop working. So for me, my retirement or post-career is going to involve some form of work, but it's on my terms, not an employer's terms.
All right, so it's safe to say you found your meaning.
Yes, I did.
All right. Did you, I know a lot of people have workshops, find your deeper meaning on life, and involves a lot of meditation, a lot of soul searching. I don't feel anything that's coming from you. So besides talking to your clients to think about that, how else do you entice them finding their deeper meaning?
For me, that's actually one of the first things we go through as I work with clients is to say, let's define your purpose statement. So companies have vision and mission statements. And so some of them, like Nike's, is just do it. Three words that defines everything. In this case, you define your purpose statement around that, around what you want to do. It's 1 or 2 sentences. And then from that, everything you decide to do that's important in your life, you challenge it back to that purpose statement to say, is this going to fulfill the purpose that I have in life? And some of the avenues we work around to define that purpose statement first is, what are the ethics in your life? What are the principles that define a meaning and purposeful life in your life? Because there are things that you could do that could derive purpose but aren't healthy. So it's, what are those aspects there? And then another thing that I try to do is then let's look at, in business, there's what's called a SWOT analysis. It's where you look at your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. Will you do that on a personal level? So what are my strengths as an individual today? What are my weaknesses? What are the opportunities I could have in my life? And then what are the threats that could be? And the typical threat could be, I lose my health. What happens if I don't have my health? So in between that and then defining your core principles, you can develop a 1 or 2 sentence purpose statement that you use as your North Star going forward.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful. That's really, really nice. I wish my grandparent have met you a few years ago. Actually, I don't know, because he feels so happy. I remember just before he went to retirement, he was like, Bruno, I waited, 40 years for that. I'm going to buy a big bottle of champagne, sit in front of the TV, and that's going to be it. It was like, okay, do you really mean it? I was like, yeah, I just going to sit in front of the TV, and that's going to be it. And I don't know when he retired. It's been, I think, 10 years now. And for the past 10 years, he's just sitting in front of the TV and watching TV. And he's happy. Every time, like, dude, are you okay? It's like best time of my life. I don't know. Hey, he's happy. So I don't know what to say.
And that does derive a lot. The ultimate goal I want to do is to have people to be happy. You want to live this life that means something. And for him, if it makes it happy, I like the fact that you still challenge him though, and I would encourage you to, because things can change and adjust. But for him, this could be simply, I worked really, really hard for 40, 45, 50 years, and this is the opportunity for me to just sit back and do my form of rest or whatever. If that works for him, great. That probably doesn't work for the majority of people. And so the idea is, what are you going to do with that time? Goes back to the time. How do you want to derive meaning and purpose from the time that you're spending?
Yeah, yeah. Well, good thing I started this podcast because no, I'm serious, because it was really life changing. I was I work as a game developer, right? And I sit in front of the computer the whole day in moment. I'm still sitting in front of the computer, but the thing is, there was not a lot of interaction, not a lot of human interaction. And one of the first things that I tried to do is like, okay, that's it, that's life. I'm gonna just do that for the rest of my life. There must be more, right? And then I started coming home from some days after work and started developing my own game. I was like, this is kind of the same. I'm just doing the same thing. I was still missing the social aspect of life. And since I started this podcast, like, involves so much of the technical aspect, lighting, camera, different softwares, but included the social aspect. Like, I meet different people, I'm challenged, my ideas are challenged. So it was the best thing that I could have ever done. And it's completely separated from my work. So let's say I lose my job today. Hopefully that doesn't happen. I still have this wonderful hobby. Let's say I retire. We're talking about retirement, right? That's something that I can keep going, keep doing. So just going back to the hobbies again, for everyone who's listening, like you mentioned, just do it. I would just like hammer this on, like just do it, like do something that you, because life is, there's so many opportunities, there's so many different things to do. If you don't like podcasting, you probably like painting, you probably will like scuba diving, you're probably gonna like something, but you need to do it, and by doing it is how you find, you discover if you like it or not. Before doing the podcast, just conclude my my story. Before doing the podcast, like, the podcast wasn't the first thing. I mentioned I started doing games, and then I started selling art because I really like to paint. Before doing them, I thought they were all great ideas, but by doing them, I realized, no, that's not for me. Until I found podcasting. So, yeah.
Well, and what I love what you do too is you share your knowledge with others, and then you get to invite guests on, and you are leaving a legacy behind already. And that's one of the things I try to challenge people heading into retirement is you can leave your own legacy. The generations coming before you, whether they're going to admit it or not, will value from your experiences. And so whether you do that through a hobby, whether you choose to volunteer, whatever you choose to do, look at it from the standpoint that I'm going to transfer my knowledge onto others in order that that people will benefit and bring value. So I love the fact that you have turned this into something that is able to benefit others that you enjoy. That's the best of both worlds.
Thank you so much, David. So you wrote a book. It's called The Time Optimized Life. Could you tell us a little bit more about it?
So we've been talking about some of the principles through it as we've been discussing. But in essence, the time optimized life flips the script. So we've talked about a lot about reactive. People are reactive using their time. That's what I feel is the problem with the term time management. It's people are like, I try to manage the last thing that comes at me, and I get that done first. I like to flip that, and time optimization is proactively using your time. And I do it through a principle called PEC, or PEC, and that's preparation, execution, and control. First thing is prepare. You have to take the time to figure out how I'm going to use my time in the future, knowing it's never going to be right, but it's worth the time to do that. From the preparation, you begin to execute that. I'm going to go start using the time that I planned. And you monitor yourself and you challenge yourself. Am I doing well or not? And then finally, the control element says, I am going to do my best to hold myself accountable for how I planned and how I'm using my time, with the idea that the three work in together, and you continuously use this so that you constantly try to improve your use of your time, knowing you're never going to be perfect, but the journey in itself lends you to greater productivity.
Great. Beautiful. And I'm sure by doing that, people feel less anxious about themselves, because a lot of, I can talk about myself, right? When I'm not aware of where I'm spending my attention and my time, at the end of the day, I just wish I could have done so much more, and get anxious about it, and then get anxious about it tomorrow. So I'm very happy that you're sharing all of those tools with all of us, and thank you so much, David. So where they can find your book, where they can find you have a YouTube channel as well, if I'm correct, where they can find you, David?
Sure. I think the easiest place to start is my website, infinitylifestyledesign.com, infinitylifestyledesign.com. And there you can go a couple of routes. One, if you'd like to learn more about my book, you can download chapter 1 for free. And then if you like it, it's available where pretty much anywhere online bookstores. Then the second thing, if you're kind of like, I maybe want to understand more how I can use my time better in career, or if you're closer to retirement, post-career, then I've got to scroll down further down the page. You can take one or both of the assessment tools that I use with clients, and you can get a free summary report. So whether you want to figure out how to generally use your time or think about what time might be like in retirement, just feel free to take one of those, and you'll get a summary report that'll give you an idea of where you can start to put your focus to improve your time.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Plan your lives, everyone. David can help you. Do you have any final remarks, anything else that you'd like to say?
Just last thing is, everyone, be patient.
Okay.
Anything good in life always takes longer than you anticipate. And so if you've got something coming up, plan the time out. Say, I think it's going to take me this long, and then add another at least 50% on top of it. Because if you get it done sooner than anticipated, wonderful, you found time. If not, you're not stressed because it's taking you longer than you think.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, David. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for being a part of the Brewcast community. And you know what? It's giveaway time. Are you ready to choose next some exclusive Brewcast gear? Well, listen up. We're giving away a limited edition Brewcast cap, and it's super easy to enter. All you have to do is subscribe. That's it. You'll be then running to win this awesome cap, but don't wait too long. Subscribe now, because this giveaway won't last forever. We'll be announcing the lucky winner at the end of October 2024, so stay tuned. Good luck to everyone, and thanks for being such an amazing part of the Brewcast community. And once again, subscribe. David, thanks so much. It was a pleasure. See you next time, my friend. Bye-bye.
Same here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hanging out with us today. If it's your first time watching the show, make sure to like and subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, please rank the show 5 stars. This will ensure that the podcast is recommended to even more people and allow me to keep doing what I love. Check out now the Brewcast store, Explore store, filled with awesome goodies from hoodies to t-shirts to mugs. We've got you covered. Stay in style with Brewcast. Embrace the shock, set the trend. Buy now at brew-cast.com/store. Again, that's brew-cast.com/store. Link on the description below. Be a Brewcast model and get free stuff. We'd love to see how you and your loved ones enjoy Brewcast. Snap a picture of yourself, your family, your friends, or even your pets wearing Brewcast merch. Or watching an episode of the show and send it to us and become part of Brewcast. We will feature you and your pictures at the end of every episode, just like the ones you're seeing on the screen right now. You can upload your pictures at brew-cast.com/contact or tag us on social media. Alright everyone, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much and see you next time. Bye bye.